Yo, what's going on? I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to another episode of the Risen Fallen podcast. Brand new format here. Well, I guess brand new name, brand new aesthetic, but same old me. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm doing beautifully here. It's another scorcher of a day in Vancouver here for me right now. Just finished up work a little while ago. Got a little bit more work to go and do in terms of the renovation work. But I thought I'd jump on here and record a little podcast. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well. So if you haven't realized yet, I've rebranded everything to Risen Fallen. This is now the Risen Fallen podcast. Instagram is now at Risen Fallen. Twitter is the exact same. I think it's at Marky Gator. My personal Instagram account is still at Marky Gator, but I don't really use it that often. In fact, I don't even think I posted once on it yet. But yeah, everything now you can find it at Risen Fallen if you look it up. Oh, and the Facebook page as well, at Risen Fallen there. So, actually, I think it's at Risen Fallen Podcast. I think it's Risen Fallen is the page name. Yeah, Risen Fallen is the page name, but if you go facebook.com/Risen Fallen Podcast, that's where you can find the page on Facebook. And yeah, so everything is now rebranded at Risen Fallen. And obviously, if you guys didn't listen to the last episode, I recommend you go and do that. But if you didn't, then I'll give you the nice little summary of why I chose the name Risen Fallen and what it really stands for. Obviously, we all fall down, but together we rise up, and that makes us the Risen Fallen. You know, obviously the owl as well. It symbolizes, obviously, the dopest animal in my personal opinion. Got one on my arm up here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but got an owl up there. And then, yeah, for me, the owl really just symbolizes, like I was saying in the last episode, you know, kind of an animal that has adapted to really just not just existing, but dominating the darkest hours of the day. And so for me, that's always kind of symbolized what it means or what it kind of is like when you have, you know, struggles in your life where you're going through dark times, whether you're dealing with something like depression or anxiety or any other mental illness, or it could just be, you know, maybe you don't really identify like that or with that kind of thing. Maybe you're just going through a dark time in your life and you just kind of feel alone and you kind of feel like, you know, you can't really see what your next move could be. You know, I feel like that's kind of who we are as the Risen Fallen people. You know, the people that just kind of adapt to navigating around the darkest hours of life. So if that's something you kind of fuck with, if that's something you kind of identify with, then welcome to the community. I do have, like I've always talked about, the Risen Fallen group on Telegram as well. So that kind of provides a community for everybody to not only be a mentor, but also be someone that could accept advice. You know, we can kind of all chat about the different struggles that we go through and give each other advice to go through it together. And that's kind of one of the benefits of that. We do daily conversations on Telegram. We also have weekly Zoom calls as well, where we do like a little weekly recap. I try and share a little bit of, you know, my perspectives, and then there's obviously way smarter people in that group as well that share theirs. And then every so often, if you're in the Vancouver area, if you're around this area, then we do like to meet up maybe once a month and do like a little hike or a nature walk or something just to kind of meet up in person and build a little bit more connectivity that way. So if you're interested in joining that, like I said, reach out to me on the Instagram page or on the Facebook page at Risen Fallen, or on Facebook, it's Risen Fallen Podcast. That's pretty much it. So back to what I was chatting about today. You know, and this is something I struggle with often, but a lot of the time we want to just fucking go, go, go. We want to just hammer away, especially if you're a super highly, quote unquote, like a highly motivated person. We always feel the need to always just be hammering away. You know, we have people that we look up to like Jocko Willink or people like David Goggins, people like Cameron Haynes, these monsters that just fucking seem to get after it every single day. And there's no days off and no need for rest or recovery. But I don't think that that's how most people in society function. As much as I'd love to tell people that you have to fucking keep grinding every single day, and you do to some degree, but you also have to understand not to let your ego get in the way of your well-being. And so I'll talk about how that kind of relates to your physical health first, and how that might relate to your fitness or your job or what have you. But I think that there's symbolism in how that actually relates to your mental health as well. And so, for example, this morning I woke up and my ankle was all jacked up. I don't know why or what happened. I attribute it most likely to the run that I had yesterday morning. I woke up and I just kind of got after it. I just went for a big run before work, and I didn't really stretch after. I just kind of, like I said, went for my run, came home, had a shower, did a little bit of reading, and then went to work. And had a pretty hard day at work as well. Didn't really rest much, and went for a nice long walk after work. So I was kind of just moving around all day. Anyways, this morning I woke up and my ankle was all jacked up. It was really stiff. It was kind of aching in bed. Like literally as I woke up this morning, it was like throbbing and aching in bed. And I was like, fuck, my ankle's all jacked up. But I was like, all right, let's just get after it anyways. So I went out. I didn't do any stretching this morning or anything like that. I went to work and busted ass in construction as well. And about halfway through the day, I don't know, I did like kind of like a side lunge to go and pick something up. But I might have like twisted or jacked up my knee a little bit, because my knee just kind of started, like I had like this sharp pain in my knee as I was like bending down to pick something up. And since then, it's been all fucking jacked up as well. Not 100% sure what's wrong with it or how long this is going to bug me for, but I know that it is definitely fucking hurting right now. It's a little bit swollen and it's definitely tender. And so the old me would have tried to push through this. Like I always say to other people as well, I always say to myself, like, if it ain't broken, you're fine. Like, walk it off kind of thing, tape it up, and fucking keep going. You know, a lot of the time, our body sends us kind of like false flags or pain. I don't know if that's really the right way to use that phrase, false flags, but it sends us kind of like fake pain receptors sometimes, just to kind of, you know, keep us from, you know, progressing, because making progress is uncomfortable. And so obviously we're going to have these uncomfortable pain responses sometimes that we're going to have to push through. And sometimes it's just a mental kind of excuse, like, oh, I'm a little bit sore today. Oh, my back's a little sore, or my knees are a little bit sore, or my neck's a little sore, so I'm going to take the day off. And we start to justify, you know, pretty much stopping any efforts to progress. And so, as much as I always tell people, like, kind of muscle through it or push through it, it's also important to do, in my eyes, what I did today, which was not go to training after work. I really wanted to go to jiu-jitsu with, obviously, with Tristan. You guys have seen him on this show before. I'm going to try and get him on the show pretty soon as well. But shout out to Tristan Milana. But typically, I push through these types of pains and I just go to training anyways. And that's pretty much what I was planning to do with the ankle. I was like, fuck, maybe I'll just tape it up and go to training. But now that my knee's a little bit jacked up, it's time for me to understand, like, hey, I'll just like kind of put my ego aside and not put that before my own well-being, which is something I'm learning to do, right? And it's always been tough for me to do this with my physical health, with my training or anything like that, because for me, training is one of the things that I feel like I need to do for my mental health. And you know, sometimes, as much as we want to push through the pain and keep grinding, it's going to be beneficial for us to kind of rest a little bit and recover and recuperate. And it might seem counterproductive because, you know, my goals, obviously, with my physique, I want to trim up, I want to get leaner, I want to get stronger, I want to get better at jiu-jitsu. And so if you told anybody, hey, I want to get leaner, I want to get stronger, I want to get better at jiu-jitsu, they would probably tell you, you should go to training, you should go to jiu-jitsu, you should fucking go and work out, you should be training hard. You should be eating lean. And there's all these different things that you can control with that situation. But that's to assume that everything's functioning properly and you're feeling good and you're not at risk for an injury. Now, whether you tell people about that or not is up to you, but you know deep down inside if you are at risk for an injury, if you are at risk for harming yourself. And that's going to be like an honest conversation you're going to have for yourself. Because, like I said, we're going to have these times where, your body or your mind is telling you, you should rest, you should recover, you should just chill out and take it easy today. And a lot of the times, it's kind of an excuse. And we don't need to listen to that shit. But sometimes it is going to be true. Sometimes you are going to be a little bit jacked up. And whether it's joint problems or muscle problems, maybe you're at risk for like tearing a muscle or what have you. I feel like a lot of the time we should kind of consult professionals or really take an honest look at ourselves and evaluate it. I think you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from, right? I think sometimes, as much as it is advantageous to do the things conducive to get us to our fitness goals, like go for your fucking hard workout, sometimes it's also, going to get us in a more productive state if we rest and recover. Take a second to rejuvenate our energy or kind of recover our muscles or our bodies, our joints, what have you. And then that way, you're not getting injured in the future and you're able to, take what feels like a small step backwards so that the next few steps are going to be leaps and bounds and not just fucking baby steps. Because obviously, if you get injured, then you're fucked. You can't train for weeks or what have you. And if you just take a little bit of time to rest and recover, then the next training session, you're going to be able to go all out. You're going to be able to get way more out of it. So you're going to get a better quality of training and you're going to get more back for your, in return for your efforts. And so this is all fucking well and good. It makes a lot of sense because we can understand it in the physical realm of working out and maybe like me, you make money off your body. Or like for me, like if my body's not functioning, I'm not making money because I work in construction. So if I need to take days off because my body's fucked, that means it's costing me money as well. And so that's something to think about. But what happens when these kind of things happen to us with our mental health? What happens when we're at risk of injury, quote unquote, risk of injury mentally? Sometimes we're going to be not in the best headspace. We're going to be at risk of injury, maybe hurting ourselves or hurting others. Maybe you're in a position in your life where, you don't really love yourself. Maybe you're in a position of your life where you're super angry or you're super anxious and you're maybe super reactive to the world around you. And if you keep trying to, push through the pain, quote unquote, push through the pain, and you just kind of keep trying to show up to training, whatever it could be, you're trying to show up in the real world, and you're kind of pushing yourself through a threshold that you shouldn't be pushing yourself, you're at risk of hurting yourself. You're at risk of hurting those around you, and you're at risk of, being a detriment to maybe people in the workplace or maybe just your own mental health, right? The same way we can get injured physically, we can get injured mentally as well. And so maybe if you're in the position where, you're feeling a lot more reactive to the world around you and, you feel like you maybe need to take a day of rest or recovery, then perhaps that's exactly what you should do. And you shouldn't feel guilty for it. You shouldn't feel like bad for it at all. Or, we have these weird stigmas. And even I push this stigma sometimes, which I don't mean to, but obviously we've got a generation that's a lot more soft than they should be and a lot more sensitive than they should be and a lot more triggered than they should be. But we are still all human and we do need rest and recovery, both physically and mentally. And so it's perfectly okay to take a day or two or however fucking long you need. I mean, I've taken a fucking month off work one time for my mental health back in the day working in sales. I was just kind of mentally fucked. And, well, you know what? There's actually no reason that I need to justify it. And I don't think you should either. You know exactly when it is that you're making excuses as opposed to, genuinely needing some fucking R&R, some rest and recovery, right? And if you don't put your ego aside and you end up putting it in front of your well-being, you prioritize ego in front of well-being, you're going to end up the same way you would if you were, injured physically and still trying to work out. You're going to fuck yourself over, and you're going to be a detriment to your team. You're going to be a detriment to those around you, the workplace. You could cost yourself money or a lot worse. And so I think it's just about having that kind of honest conversation with yourself about, hey, when do I really need to rest? And what does rest really look like? That's the entire other side of this conversation. Because a lot of the time and I do this shit too, because, as much as, sometimes when I'm like, hey, I need to have a rest day, I want to fucking kick back and order some skip the dishes, have some fucking cheat meals, enjoy some Netflix with my girl. And she enjoys those days with me as well. But what does rest really look like physically? A lot of the time, like tonight, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to the pool, the local pool here. I'm going to hit some cold plunges. We have a cold plunge pool at my fucking local pool, which is pretty sick. And then I'm going to be sitting in the sauna, doing a little bit of stretching. Like, I'm going to be doing what's called active recovery. And the same can be done as well for our mental health. So if you feel like, hey, I need a little bit of rest and recovery for my mental health, what does that really look like? For me, and I can only speak personally, and you guys can kind of draw your own conclusions on what this might look like for your life. But for me, that's kind of having conversations with my loved ones, talking about my problems, not just having these surface level conversations, but actually talk about the demons that I'm dealing with. Also, journaling, reading, meditating, doing yoga. These are all things that I find kind of help me relax, help me recover. The old me would have just gotten fucking baked out of his tree and just fucking done a bunch of yoga, which, I mean, that can be beneficial too. But I found that smoking weed obviously was a big crutch for me, and so I had to sober up. I'm now around like 40 days sober, so that's pretty fucking sick as well. It's kind of the longest I've been sober, to be 100% honest, in the last like 10 years. So I'm pretty proud of that. I know there's a big stigma around that, and I know like this generation is fully like down with enabling the everyday usage of weed. And by all means, if you can use it responsibly, go for it. But it was kind of making my life unmanageable. And so I found like I had to just sober up. And yeah, so I just want to talk about today about what rest and recovery really looks like. Because for me, like I said, I used to just take my rest days by getting super high, fucking doing a little bit of stretching, doing a little bit of reading. And I mean, that sounds like a pretty good rest day to me. But this time I'm trying to do it a lot more sober and do a lot more purposeful kind of rest and recovery. Like going to the sauna and still being able to push myself mentally, even though I'm not able to push myself physically today, so that the next time I want to train, I'll be able to get a lot more out of it. The last thing I wanted to share was a little quote, and I hope I don't butcher this. It was a quote that I heard from a good friend's mom the other day. And, if you listen to this, you know exactly who you are. You know where I heard this quote, but I'm gonna do my very best to not butcher this. But the quote was, "You can't run from your demons if you're still hanging out with them." And that was a quote that I heard, like I said, from a friend of mine's mother the other day. And it really hit home for me because I found that for the last little while, I thought I could make friends with the demons that I was fighting. And I realized that, for me, I don't really want to run from them anymore, like the quote says, but I think it symbolizes perfectly kind of the idea of just hanging out with them more and being okay with them being around. For me, I'm trying to actually face these demons and fight them and kill them myself. And understanding as well that sometimes we gotta change the people that we hang out with, and sometimes we gotta change the thought patterns that we have. You know, sometimes we hang out with our demons in our head. Maybe it's not like actual people. Maybe it's sometimes, the demons in our head. And by hanging out with them, what that really means is entertaining these thoughts of that come to us in dark times. So I just want to share that quote. Maybe you guys kind of have a different interpretation of that, but when I heard that quote, I was like, fuck, I really enjoy that. And you guys are probably smarter than me. In fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment on what you think that quote is, or maybe if you like a different quote, you want to share that quote, share it in the comment section below if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, if you're not, hit me up on Instagram and DM me some cool quotes. I fucking love that shit. Maybe I'll share your quote next episode. But that's pretty much it for today. I just want to talk about rest and recovery and being able to kind of put your ego on the back burner and not put it in front of your well-being. If you're listening to this in the morning, I hope you have a good day. If you're listening to this in the afternoon, I hope your day is going well. If you're listening to this in the evening, I hope you did have a good day. And if you didn't, maybe journal about what made it shitty and plan for a good day tomorrow. But that's pretty much it. Like I mentioned before, everything is rebranded to @RisenFallen. So go follow me on Instagram, @RisenFallen. Hit me up there. Let me know what you think of the podcast. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, leave a little 5-star rating. If you're listening to this on Spotify, leave a little 5-star rating. Share the show, help it grow. But that's all I got. Just understand that no matter what it is you're going through, like I've always said in my episodes, life can and will get better for you. And not only will it just get like a little bit better and manageable, but I think that if you kind of implement a lot of the things that I talk about here and maybe share some of the things that work for you, you can actually start to unlock the greatness that you have within you. And it'll get, not just a little bit more manageable, but it'll actually be enjoyable on a day-to-day basis. So I hope that happens for you. And just understand that if you are in dark times right now, we all fucking fall down sometimes. But together, we fucking rise back up. So, like I said, that's all I got. I hope you're doing well. If you're not, hit me up. And let's fucking chat about it. Other than that, fucking go out and have a good day, have a good week, have a good month, have a good year for the rest of 2022. Much love. Peace out, motherfuckers. Love you all.